But for those little babies that are just fresh in the world is exhausting to them. It's such a huge sensory experience, especially when they've come out of the womb, which is such a sensory controlled experience.
There's no such thing as perfect sleep either. And there's one thing I don't like when people say, is your baby a good baby? Because your baby's not a bad baby if they don't sleep well.
I think the good thing to remember as a parent when you're in those first 3 months, which can feel like you're in the trenches of parenting, is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You will come out of this and you will sleep again.
Yeah.
I promise.
Ngala acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional custodians of Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging in the spirit of reconciliation. We acknowledge the importance of children being raised with connection to culture, community and family.
Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Jen.
Welcome back to Parenting with Ngala. Today we have with us lovely Kate, who is going to talk to us today about sleep and what to expect from your baby in the first 3 months. Welcome, Kate.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. We're so glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about you and what programs you're involved in at Ngala.
Sure. I am a child health nurse and a mother of 2. I have been working at Ngala, started off in the family residential services where families come in and we support them with parenting. I also work on the Parenting Line and the Thriving Families program and program development. Yes.
We're glad to have you. So tell us a little bit about sleep, the topic that everyone is the most interested in when it comes to babies.
Yeah, sleep and newborn sleep in particular. There's a lot.
Maybe we can start by just talking about what is typical with newborn sleep.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's typical?
Look, it's pretty variable. They can range from about 14 to 17 hours in a 24-hour period, but then some babies as little as 11 hours up to 19 hours. So, yeah, there's no typical pattern. It's very variable.
That's good to know that it's variable as well. And you were mentioning in 24 hours, but sometimes we even maybe want to look over a couple of days, even with newborns as well. Yeah, it's not just kind of, they slept really well last night. Like things can kind of...
Yeah, they're constantly changing and growing and developing. And sleep is very much driven by feeding needs. So they're needing a lot of feeding during that first few months for growth. So it can be hourly, 2 hourly, up to 4 hourly.
Yeah, so you're looking at sometimes like 12 feeds in a 24-hour period as well. They're up to 12 feeds. That's a lot. Is that because they've got tiny stomachs?
They do. They have tiny little tummies. So, yeah, we only have to feed them for a short time and then they're hungry again not long after.
About the size of their closed fist, isn't it?
Yeah,
yes. Teeny tiny. And I think I've heard as well that a 24-hour period for a baby is a feed, play, sleep kind of rhythm. So for us that would be a full day, but for them that 1, 2, 3, that's their 24-hour period. So that's why even if your baby doesn't have a really great sleep, we can just start again the next time.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Their days are really...
Their days are just that,
Yeah.
feed, play, sleep.
Yeah. And a sleep could be 20 minutes and a sleep could be 3 hours, it's very variable.
And if you think about us, it takes us the full day as adult people to feel tired and ready for sleep. But for those little babies that are just fresh in the world is exhausting to them. It's such a huge sensory experience, especially when they've come out of the womb, which is such a sensory controlled experience that, for us it takes us a whole day to get tired, or even longer than 12 hours, probably more like 15, 16 hours. But for them, it's maybe they're starting to get tired between that half an hour and hour mark and they're ready for sleep. So it's nice to think about their days in inverted commas being really short.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Sleep pressure builds really quickly for them. Just, interaction with mum's face or dad's face can be very stimulating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And do babies have a circadian rhythm the same way adults do?
No, not when they're born. So it typically takes about 10 to 12 weeks to develop. So if you imagine when mum's pregnant, bub is being moved and rocked all day long as she walks around, so they typically sleep at that time. And then when mum lies down and wants to have a good sleep herself, baby wakes up and there's lots of movement and kicking because they're nice and still. So when they're brought into the world, they still very much live in this womb-like environment, and it takes about 10 to 12 weeks to sort of develop. And there's things that you can do to support that and help develop that circadian rhythm, which is your day-night cycle. And that is, brightness during the day, expose them to bright lights, and during the night, nice and calm and dark. And
So they're
quiet.
things that parents can do from the early days, even though it definitely takes time for that. Because circadian rhythm, another word for that would be body clock. That's the more kind of common term for that. So it does, we know it's going to be taking, a couple of weeks, or quite probably more like a couple of months for it to start to kick in, for that baby to go, I sleep more at night and I'm awake more in the day. But we still know babies need to sleep quite a bit in the day as well. But from the sort of the first sort of coming home from the hospital, opening up the blinds in the morning, maybe getting out. I mean, that's good for mums as well as for babies. So, but they're really practical things like that can help with the development of that body clock. Even exposure to that later afternoon sun. I often recommend that on the parenting line, that can be helpful because that helps that melatonin kick in, that natural sleep hormone.
Yeah. But we do know melatonin doesn't start to be produced in the brain until 16 weeks.
Yeah.
So these are all just things that you do to set yourself up.
To create
to
rhythms.
create those rhythms, to create those
foundations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel like as well in those early stages, you don't know what you're doing. So if you can feel like you're doing something that's in the direction of something positive, then maybe it helps you feel a little bit more in control. It definitely did for me.
Yeah. You've got a little checklist of things I need to do today.
Yeah. I loved how you talked about it, babies being active at nighttime when they're in the womb, because my son was always really active at nighttime, and then he was also active at nighttime when he was born.
Yes. Very, very common. Yeah. And so in terms of sleep for a baby, where should baby sleep?
The safest place would be in their own space, like a bassinet or a cot, somewhere flat, free from toys and clutter. Preferably a swaddle or a sleeping bag, so there's no blankets lying around.
But it's okay if they sleep in the pram, in the car, on your in a carrier, all of these things.
Yeah, I think as long as they're supervised.
Yeah.
Look, contact naps are absolutely paramount in these first few months. Skin to skin helps with attachment and connection and bond. They can hear your heartbeat, they can feel your warmth. So they're all things that, you're creating this womb-like environment for them. So often we have parents calling parenting line saying, my baby will only sleep on me, and that's really hard because they're not used to it. They're not being So it's about encouraging them and letting them know that this is okay. You're not setting them up for bad habits.
Yeah, it's actually expected.
Yeah.
And babies that young, they don't even have the brain capacity to develop a habit. They're just living in the world moment to moment.
Absolutely.
They're little balls of reflexes. Yeah.
I think parents get a lot of information given to them and then feel a lot of guilt that they're setting themselves up or their babies up for failure in some way, but they're definitely not. And we would actually encourage that closeness between babies at that age and mum and dad, caregiver.
Yeah.
Also, later down in the track, I know I'm jumping ahead here, if you think your baby has learnt a way of sleeping that, isn't favourable to you, well, I always take a real positive spin on that. I say, well, if your baby's learnt something, that's fantastic. Yeah. They've got an incredible brain. That means they can learn something else. Like if your baby's proved to me that they've learned this way of falling asleep, that shows me that they can learn lots of different things and we can always replace that sort of association with a broader variety of ways of falling asleep. So I'm putting that one in there because I always like to have a positive spin on that kind of, I'm worried that, I've set myself up for failure or something. Yeah. Not at all. You've just proved how clever your baby is.
And this is true of feeling if it's not a problem for you, then it's not a problem. So if you are happy to have your baby sleep in the carrier, but people are telling you don't do that because you're going to set yourself up for failure in the future, it's not a problem for you. Don't even worry about it. Just do what works at the time.
And do what works for your family.
Yeah. Especially if you've got young, older siblings. If you've got toddlers running around, it might not be possible for you to get have that baby in that sort of cot, bassinet, sleep environment for every nap. If you're having to do school pickups and drop-offs, they might have one of their naps or two of their naps on the drive to school pickup. And then you go, okay, and then maybe middle of the day I might try to be home, so that I can lay them down for a nap. if that works for you and if your baby will tolerate that.
And these are all the variables that we cannot predict what's going to happen.
And they're also different, aren't they, Kate? Like a temperament, I think, comes into it a lot.
Yeah, and your own parenting style, and there's so many factors that, a child's temperament is huge.
Yeah. I remember in a mother's group, my friend put her baby down on the ground under the fluorescent lighting of the community centre that we were in, and this little baby just looked up to the ceiling and just fell asleep, wasn't swaddled or anything. And everyone in the group turned to this mum and said, "How did you do that?" And she's like, "I literally did nothing. That was just him and his temperament." And some people have babies like that will sort of just quite easily drift off to sleep. And others, might be more of that active, alert baby, always looking around, and they're going to need a little bit more support, a little bit more sort of nudging, gentle cues from the environment, that closeness with mum, maybe feeding to sleep, a sort of a carrier walk around, or as they get a little bit older, maybe creating that more sort of sleep environment to actually go, oh, yeah, sleepy time is here. Yeah, I can allow sleepiness to take over. Yeah. So interesting.
And it just takes time for us to get to know our babies, right?
Yes, so true. So true. I think we expect that it's going to happen instantaneously.
Magic, natural thing that we should know how to interpret their cues, but it takes a long time.
And you have to learn that.
Parental competency.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Yeah. It's not an instinctual thing. It does come from learning. And give yourself some grace and some space and say, I'm learning too.
Trial and error as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't always get it right.
Yeah, and that's okay.
That's totally fine. That's how we learn. That's how we learn. One thing I suppose we didn't touch on there is where the sleep environment is. So we've talked about a firm, sort of clear sleep environment in those early stages. But where would that be? Is baby sleeping in their own room? Are they in your room? What's sort of the recommendations around that?
In the parents' room for the first 6 to 12 months is the safest place for baby.
And why is that?
It's because so parents can be attuned to them and respond to them as they need. Yeah.
So it all comes down to responsiveness, isn't it?
Yeah,
so if your baby's there, then you can feed them, especially when you know that they could be needing feeds every
2 hours.
2 hours
Yeah.
through the night. That would be our top end probably. But if they're in the room, then it's quick, easier access to our babies and we can respond to those cues.
Yes. Yeah.
They say that you wake within 2 seconds, 1.8 seconds or something of your baby waking, or they will wake if you wake as well. That's how in tune they are to you and you are to them without even knowing it.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I used to be like, and then baby would wake up.
Or you're like, my baby keeps waking up, but it could be you. It could be you waking up. Who knows? Yeah.
And they're loud as well, little babies in the room. So
they are.
Yeah, very loud. They're like
my daughter sounds like a chook.
Yeah.
Oh, a lawnmower.
Little snuffly things with their tiny little airways and their nose breathing.
Everything's very small and close together because we do actually get a lot of calls about like, oh my gosh, I don't know if my baby's, making these sounds at night, if that's typical. And often, it is
I had a couple of those
typical.
calls this week. And, it is hard because you want to say, well, actually, it's expected that they're going to be noisy. But you also don't know when you're on the phone that, you make sure that they get that baby checked out. But it is actually normal for them to be noisy.
Yeah. They spend a lot of time in REM sleep, right?
Yeah.
So, what is REM sleep? Tell us about
that's
that.
Rapid eye movement. So that's their light sleep compared to their non-REM, which as they get older, they spend more time in that non-REM.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. That is correct.
Yeah.
So I always find that interesting because there's that term sleeping like a baby. Well, sleeping like a baby is
about your husband.
Sleeping like a baby is super light sleep. Is the when we put the baby down and we've maybe cuddled them and they seem to be you've done the little arm test where you've picked up the arm and dropped it and slopped down. You think okay, yep, they're definitely asleep. You put them down and then you turn the door handle and it goes click and they're like awake again. That's because of that that's because of the REM sleep. So the lighter sleep. Yeah. And I think 70% of newborn baby sleep is in that lighter sleep phase.
Yeah, so they'll move in and out of those sleep cycles and they'll do it and they'll surprise you. Like you said, nice deep sleep. Yeah. The minute you turn your back, they're back into that REM sleep and anything will wake them up. So,
And as our baby gets older, as you touched on, they go into that deeper sleep, that non-REM sleep a little bit more.
They do.
And it's often at the start of their sleep cycle, isn't it? Yeah.
Correct.
Nice. We can look forward to that. I think we got a little distracted. We were talking about the fourth trimester and the concept of the fourth trimester and that womb-like environment. So let's revisit that idea. What are people referring to when they say fourth trimester?
Yeah, so the fourth trimester is a period of that newborn phase, about 3 months, where we want to sort of mimic it. So contain baby, because that's where they feel safest, nice and either swaddled or cuddled on parent, warmth and sound, so rhythmic sounds like the heartbeat when they're in the womb. So some people will have like a heartbeat white noise, or just on your chest is enough to help them and help calm and relax them.
So considering this, Kate, the fourth trimester, the womb-like environment, how would you use this to help a baby settle to sleep?
Yeah, so you can settle a baby many different ways. So the rhythmic movement, shushing, so that noise that sounds like a shh that's in the womb, swaddling, or gently wrapping, so that they're feeling nice and contained, and sucking. So you may want to pick them up, cuddle them, skin to skin, feed them. All those things.
And it's normal for babies to feed to sleep?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Even for babies that are breastfed, there's often hormones in that breast milk that support sleepiness as well. So it makes sense actually that your baby would fall asleep while breastfeeding. You also yourself, as the breastfeeding person, may feel sleepy too. That's not uncommon. I remember that very strongly, being like, I just can't stay awake. So, Kate, you've given us some really lovely ideas around soothing and settling and supporting sleep. At Ngala, we often talk about responsiveness as well. Can you talk a little bit about what that word means and how it relates to sleep and settling?
Yeah, sure. Look, we're not aiming to teach our child to sleep. We're responding to them when they are trying to communicate with us. It's very much around them learning to trust that main caregiver. So, or the caregivers, we can't spoil them, so you can't over-respond to them. And when we respond to them, it's about, picking them up, cuddling them, feeding them, trying to figure out what that need is at that time. Ultimately it's about building trust.
Yeah, and so they're learning that when they need help, someone's going to come and help them.
That's it.
Now, for people that have older children or toddlers running around, sometimes we can't always respond perfectly. Is that okay?
That's okay. I think as long as we're getting to them within a timely manner, that, they don't become too dysregulated, but it's very much about that reunification. If you have stepped away and you can't, you're stuck on the toilet or something, you get back and then you offer that reassurance and show them that you're there and you're responding to them. And that's what's going to make them feel safe and secure.
So it sounds like the biggest takeaway message there is that we're trying, we're even if we're just using our voice, say we are stuck on the toilet and baby's in the bouncer losing it or something, we're going, Mum's here, I'm
driving
coming.
in the car.
Driving in the car would be another perfect example. We've talked about that, stuck on the freeway.
Very, very hard thing.
Tough.
Yeah.
So you're just using your voice.
Using your voice, singing, being calm as possible.
Yeah.
When you're regulated, your baby finds it easier to co-regulate with you. So,
and remembering that they can hear you and that they know you're there. It's not the same. If your baby is dysregulated in your arms and you're trying your best to regulate them, that's perfect. That's all you can do. If you have a dysregulated baby who's alone in a room, it's a very different scenario. So if you're doing your very best and you're there with them and they can hear your voice, that's enough.
And even if it's not actually being successful in that moment, it's just the fact that you're trying. So because babies pick up on that. They know about the vibes.
That's right. The vibes are on.
They might not know the words, but it's all about the vibes. So if you're sending out that message that you're there trying to help, even if you can't always do it. I mean, that happens with adults. Someone's upset and we just being with, and trying can be what that person needs, even though we might not actually have the perfect answer that's going to make them all good again.
Yeah,
so true. And as parents, I think we want to fix straight
no one
away.
Likes to hear their baby upset.
That's right. It's a really hard thing to sit with. And so being kind to yourself as a parent and knowing that you're doing the best you can in that moment is enough.
And sometimes you're learning as well when the time to step away, just to take a few deep breaths.
Yes.
To
regulate yourself.
Regulate yourself to be able to go back and bubble feel that.
Yes.
That change in you.
Yes.
Yeah. Responsiveness kind of goes both ways. I'm jumping forward again, but you know, in these early stages, we're very responsive to our baby because our little newborn baby doesn't really have that many skills. You know, they're just they absolutely need us for survival, right? But as they get older, imagine if we still responded to our 2.5-year-old like we did a newborn baby. Like that's
no one would have any more babies.
No one would have. So it's that sort of graded over these early years of sort of toing and froing with, you know, where we respond to, and then sometimes we're doing a lot more. And sometimes we're doing a little less, and that sort of like gel. Sometimes we don't get it right. You know, you go, oh gosh,
I didn't do that quite right, and that's okay. It's good enough parenting is good enough.
Absolutely.
30% of the time, do the best that you can, and you're going to be doing a really good job.
Yeah,
and that just comes back to that trust. You know, as they get older, if you've built that trust in that young baby, you'll get a little bit more, you know, wiggle room there.
Yeah.
And if you need to make changes later on around sleep, they trust that. They trust the process easier when they trust you,
they know
because you're
you'll come.
guiding them.
Yeah.
You know, you're that confident leader that's, you know, guiding them with that change, and they trust that. Yeah.
We often say bigger, stronger, wiser and kinder parent. And I think that, you know, we can start that from early days as well.
So, Kate, everything that we've discussed today is obviously very variable, and there's a huge range because we know that every baby is different. Every baby has a different temperament and different parents and different context. What would be some things that you would want parents, caregivers to take away from today's discussion to go forward with in those first 3 months for their baby and sleep?
I think it's important to know that it can be very unpredictable and exhausting, but it's also a very short season of that. Like there's no such thing as perfect sleep either. And there's one thing I don't like when people say, is your baby a good baby? Because your baby's not a bad baby if they don't sleep well, you know, if they don't sleep the typical what they should. But it's, I think, just remembering that first sort of 3 months is about keeping your baby safe, responding to them with love, and finding what works for your family, you know. And then things typically will fall into place. You know, if you're feeling good about it, like if you're not, then reach out and get some support as well. You know, call Parenting Line.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what we're there for.
That's what we're there for.
Yeah.
And we can help guide you and support you with that. But yeah, I think enjoy the moments of connection when they're awake and feeding. But yeah, don't put too much pressure on yourself to get to know your baby too quickly.
Yeah.
Because it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time.
It really does.
It's like I joke and say you've got this new housemate
Yeah.
who vomits on you, who yells in the middle of the night, you know, and you all have to get to know each other and adjust and go through that period of adjustment. And that does take time, and it takes a bit of trial and error, and it takes some practice. And I think on the Parenting Line, when you call us, we definitely don't have all the answers, but we definitely take a problem-solving approach. So we go, okay, tell us where you're at the moment. And we've got, you know, some professional training, some evidence behind us that we can try to adapt into your situation and give you some knowledge as well as some problem-solving skills to go, okay, well, maybe this is something you could think about or try. We don't have all the answers, just like you.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know the baby's
Sometimes there
temperament.
isn't an answer.
And we don't know the mum's parenting style or their past and, you know, their history. So it's, yeah.
I think the good thing to remember as a parent when you're in those first 3 months, which can feel like you're in the trenches of parenting, is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You will come out of this and you will sleep again.
Yeah.
I promise. It's sometimes you just can't feel that when you're in it.
It just feels so long.
Yeah.
Yep. And I remember, you know, a baby having such a short little sleep, and you were perhaps relying on and hoping that sleep would be longer, and you've already spent the time in your head. You know, that was always the risk. You think, oh, once that baby's down, I'm going to have a shower, I'm going to do something, or I'm going to sit down by myself. And then they wake up and you think, oh no. And then that next period of awake, that next cycle just feels so long again. And time can be so warped when you're sleep deprived, but also when you don't have those typical routines of daily life, like, you know, you're not going to a 9 to 5 job anymore necessarily. So time can be really, really warped. That 60 minutes or so, or 40 minutes that your baby is actually awake can feel so much longer, and then that same 45 minutes that they're asleep can go in a flash.
Yeah.
So,
and it is Groundhog Day, unfortunately. A lot for that first 3 months.
Yep.
The same thing. And it can be monotonous. But be kind to yourself if you have those thoughts. They're normal thoughts to have.
people sometimes describe it as like busy bored.
Yeah.
You've got a lot to do, but can be quite boring sometimes and repetitive.
Yeah.
Well, Kate, it's been lovely speaking to you and talking about all your expertise. And yeah, thank you so much for being here today, talking about newborn sleep, the biology of sleep, and things like the circadian rhythm and what's sort of generally typical and variable in that newborn first 12-week period.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Parenting with Ngala. The topics covered in our podcast are general in nature and the information might not suit everyone. If you're in Western Australia and would like to chat about a specific challenge, you can talk directly to the Ngala parenting line by calling 9368 9368. For all other links and resources, check out the Ngala website and the show notes below. Thank you again and see you next time.